There is nobody among the thousands gathered here today, or the many more viewers at home, that cannot easily identify the scars that apartheid has left upon our country. But when did apartheid become a valid excuse for the failure of the current government? Surely we do not accept mediocrity, incompetence, and corruption simply because it is inflicted by a democratic government instead of a repressive regime. In fact, quite the opposite. We should be striving for the highest standards. We should have a government that reaches for the ideals embodied in our constitution in this country. Instead, we find ourselves having to cope with the ANC's misrule, which undermines the dream of building a better life for all South Africans. Literally thousands of public protests occur every day or yearly or all the time because of broken promises by the ruling party. The vast majority of these are by communities frustrated by 20 years of broken promises over basic services like water and sanitation. It is clear that more and more people are becoming disillusioned with the ruling party's misrule. When the youth march into the parliament and protest in their tens of thousands at the union buildings demanding free education, it is clear that they think of this government's failure. From where we are sitting, it is clear that the ruling party lacks the political will to implement its 1994 election promises of free education. Akunjalo? Ngiyakhumbula ndandisepha kwa-ANC ngelo xesha maqabane nabanye benu. Ndacelwa ndiseyi-head of Transkei government kuba sasisebenza ne-liberation movements. Kwathiwa ndabizwa kutata uMandela ongasekhoyo. Wathi kum, bantu, i-leadership ka-African National Congress ndicelile uba ndikucela uba ube ngomnye wabantu abasibhozo abazawukhampenela i-ANC kwezi elections ka-94. Hayi ndathatha i-instructions bake sasendisebenza nabo anyway na-underground yokumcimbi ngiyawuqonda mos. Now, undinika ke ngoku i-bump of documents, manifestos and policies. Uba njengoba ke ndiyile Joni ndizawufuna ndimemorize into ngoku. Thethe politics, babe ndithethe military kuqala. Ithi ke into, free education, vote for us, awunika ntoni i-free education. Therefore, there is a legitimate expectation on the part of the voters of this country that the government should roll out this free education. Instead, bahambe beyitya nje le mali apha esithubeni. Goes. To make matters worse, the ruling party prioritized elite projects such as e-tolls and trillion-rand nuclear deals over the needs of the people. This means that the already overburdened taxpayer is being asked to foot the bill for unnecessary and wasteful projects which are laced with corruption. To say that we as a nation deserve better is an understatement of the century. We need a growing economy that creates jobs in order to end poverty and restore dignity, human dignity rather. And yet, we are saddled with economic policy that does exactly the opposite. Our economy needs to be stimulated and nurtured with the state playing a decisive role in order to address past imbalances and backlogs. This can be done by investing in small business development, among other things. It is important to remember that no meaningful empowerment of the people of this country can occur without first addressing the lack of access to land for the majority citizens, as well as lack of access to capital. It is for this reason that the United Democratic Movement believes that South Africa needs to convene an economic indaba to develop a blueprint of our country's economy. This indaba must be similar in scale and scope to the CODESA negotiations, which resolved the basic political direction of our country. Like CODESA, it must include all the stakeholders in society so that we can lose in the stranglehold of the ruling elite and their dubious consultants. Ndiyafuna ndinicacisele le nto bantu bakuthi because ihistory ngathi ifuna udistortwa. Ngaphambili liberation movements of this country, they were fighting for unitary state. But ngenxa ye compromises to accommodate, in particular the IFP and its followers, we ended up with the provinces, which I always term them as glorified homelands. Before that, we must not forget ukuthi kwi-conflict yase-South Africa, they have never been winners. Abantu abawinayo kula conflict, it was the country, South Africa. Therefore, ezinto sathi sacompromise ngazo, uhulumende u-ANC nabantu ayinegotiate nabo, zezi sithi ke ngoku make siphindele kwenye into ngeke-economic indaba, because abantu kwi-economy bashiywa ngaphandle kuzoxoxwa kakuhle. Ndisike ndibe buhlungu ka ndiva ihistory distortwa ndisaphila, because le nto ezi compromises emva kosweleka kukaChris, late Comrade Joe Slovo and SACP approached the leadership of the African National Congress and proposed what you call today sunset clauses, because they were state of panic. The clerk bavumela bangena ngaphakathi batrap. So therefore we have to ask ourselves, to what extent has that compromise is inflicting suffering esiyibonayo on a daily basis? That's why we say let's go back to a round table discussion and say, sizawuzi-empowerisha njani if asina access to land. 21 years igqithile, but xa ufuna i-security apha phakathi kwenu uyasokola. Security nje ebhankini yofuna ntoni? Imali yosumntana kwesikolweni. So i-ANC gave in kula proposal ye-alliance partner yayo ngu-SACP nge-sunset clauses. Sebathi uba ndiyaxoka sawudibana kwi-live debate ndandikhona. We can no longer trust the ruling party with the running of our economy. For proof, one needs to look no further than President Zuma's reckless and irresponsible decision to remove Minister Nene and the impact that decision has had on our economy. The danger posed to society by climate change, if I may divert, worsens the bleak picture I have sketched above. For instance, today we are facing the worst drought in this country. Whilst this is the state of the nation, in brief, we must attend to the ways in which each of us can help to turn this situation around. We are gathered here on the eve of local government elections. At this Congress, we are also launching the UDM election manifesto under the theme, Put Community First. Put community first. However, let me hasten to add that this manifesto serves as a guide. From here, you need to develop, rather you need to go to your localities and develop manifestos that speak to the challenges facing your communities actually. The forthcoming elections is our opportunity to demonstrate to the nation at local level that there are solutions to the challenges that faces South Africa. United in our desire to create a better villages, towns and cities, we can light the way and show which policies should be applied nationally. We have it within our hand, within our power, to effect changes that will result in genuine improvements in the lives of all South Africans. There is one thing that we can all agree on, and that is change is necessary. In this election, you are not simply choosing between one political party and another. You can choose another 5 years of the same old discredited policies and poor service delivery, or you can choose change for the better. Some will claim much has been done in the past 20 years, but we look at reality and know that many of these accomplishments are overstated. For instance, when the ANC government claims to have built more houses, they should admit that more people have badly built houses. And when the ANC government claims to have provided more services, they should admit that more people are receiving bad and unreliable services. When they claim to have built more infrastructure like roads, they should admit that it is mostly just more tolls and more potholes. To add insult to injury, elite projects like e-tolls have funneled our taxpayers' money out of the country. We should be reaching for the highest goals to give expression to the spirit of our Constitution. We must aim to build a country that unleashes its vast potential, where each person, irrespective of race, gender, class, or geography, has the opportunity and indeed the calling to contribute to the thriving, prosperous nation, to build a nation like no other. This local government elections is our chance to show that it can be done, starting in the streets where we live. We can build something greater, something better to improve lives of our families and loved ones. As a voter, it is up to you to set a new agenda. You have the power to say what are the real priorities as opposed to the elite projects such as speed trains, automated e-tolling, which contribute nothing to your life and only enrich the politically connected. It is time to put community first. It is time to do what? Put community by prioritizing service delivery and removing the politicians and parties standing in the way of that. Once and for all, we need to firmly establish the principle that our elected councillors are there to serve the community and not the other way around. All of us pay municipal rates, but in return, most of us do not receive the services that are rightfully ours. We have so much work to do. The need is great, but we can do this. We can rise above the current disaster in local government. Let us vote for a party and councillors dedicated to joining hands with their communities. Indeed, let us start now instead of waiting another 5 years. In many municipalities, the potholes outnumber the street lamps. It is up to you as a voter to demonstrate your unhappiness with incompetent and corrupt councillors and the councils. I give you my personal assurance that if we find way UDM councillors, or we found any UDM councillor who are failing to deliver, they will be swiftly removed. Other political parties may tolerate corruption or rather corrupt and incompetent councillors, but the UDM does not. I believe that the UDM and the councillors we are fielding in these elections provide you with champions for your cause. Our overriding purpose is to serve and put communities first. The UDM seeks to bring about positive change and improve the quality of life of those wards and municipalities where our councillors are elected. This manifesto introduces you to our thinking on the core principles of how local government should put first communities. We are eager to meet you at rallies or within your living rooms to explain to you in general detail our values and how we intend to serve you in your municipality. Ultimately, your UDM councillor is your voice in local government and a person that consults with the community to determine your needs and then champion your cause. Funa icacisa ke lento ngolhlobo bakuthi ndizohlala phansi. I-United Democratic Movement ayiyo political party ene resources kangako. Asina chancellor house apha sihambe ngene kwezi tenders karhulumente. Therefore, we decided into le manifesto sizoyilauncha namhlanje ngexesha silapha sonke. Then xa nigoduka nina ngoJanuary njengoba ezinye iparty sezawulauncha ziqokelela abantu. Nina ngoJanuary busy at branch level. Nipreparishela umasipala. The meetings apho nichuza khona would be councillors. Nichuze kuceba beni. Ilonto le akusekho nithi ngokuba nithi phinde nichithe ixesha lenu. Sithi hayi nizawuphinda nithini nizodibana apha okanye kwenye province. Silauncha imanifesto. Ilaunchiwe ngoku into efunekayo nje qha ukuthi apha ekuhlaleni mnamntu waseSoweto, mnamntu wasekuthini, waselalini, waseBryanston, njalo njalo. Ndingafane ndiyenze kanjani ukuimprove situation. Ndinganicacisela nje ngokwam ndikwi-opposition benches, but when it comes to the matters of nation building, ndinyusa igawusi ngokwam. Asiwayo umsholozi notata umbheki umsholozi bathi mfonini ngawusincedise eKwaZulu Natal. Nisakhumbula ngo-2004 uze ingene ulawulweni intoni ANC enantsike KZN. Same applies with coalitions. Western Cape baniyakhumbula. Nalapho sadibana i-votes ze-UDM zaba strong uze sifake uDA ngalo minyaka. But ujaja imood yay-voters ubi-direction ithini xa kufuneka ukuncedisile. So don't just oppose anything oyibona imuvayo. Bathi mhlaba beleqwa ngamajoni phaa lamagwala phaa e-Union Buildings. Daba ngokuqala ebusuku ufonelwa nguLindi Wesizulu owaye-Minister of Defence. General, please man, asifune uthi no kule nto sizakucela yona. Yintoni? President uthi masincede uyosicima lo mlilo. Ndithi hayibo, opposition anizikoyika nto usike ndinibhukuqela nidla ngothi ndingumbhukuqi nje. But I accepted that challenge. Since then, ndisebenza namanye ama-South Africa to make sure bamajoni ase-South Africa noko anesidima atrayiniwe ane-equipment right. As we speak, Xa ndithetha nge-climate change, simple. If singathi xa sigoduka apha sishumayele kumasipala, sidimande kurhulumente into yoba amasimi wethu makabiyelwe. Indawo zowutyisela imfuyo mazibiyelwe, wakhiwa amadama phaa ezindlini bekufama ngoku xa kusakhiwa i-RDP house ubuya inikezelwa kuthiwe nantsi indlu yakho sikunike nemithi yokukhusela kwizitshithi izichotho so that indlu yakho ingadestroywa zezi zitshithi. So ndizama ukuthi ke we contribute. I work with all 7 kingdoms so far. I've worked with 7 kingdoms. Kingdom of KwaZulu-Natal, 6 provincial kingdoms as the Eastern Cape, where I'm leading a campaign in their palaces to plant indigenous trees towards mitigation against climate changes. So we need to educate abantu bethu. Phansi ngamasela phansi! Xolise ngayo yonke enye into madoda. Sayixoxa xa sebemkile abasemzini ngale afternoon. Enkosi. Amandla! Izamhlekazi. Fayingo.
Well, UDM President General Bantu Olomisa giving his opening remarks at this UDM Congress taking place here at the University of the Free State in Bloemfontein. Well, touching on a number of issues that he believes the United Democratic Movement can exploit, saying that his party is not dead yet. Those who are writing its obituary should think again, for they are here to stay. To use his term, they are on the ascendancy. The UDM is on the ascendancy again, and he cites, among other things, that ward at the Nelson Mandela metro in Port Elizabeth that the UDM surprisingly won. He believes that they can build on that, and he believes that perhaps the ANC is much more vulnerable than it has ever been in the 20-odd years that we've been a democracy. Well, over the next few hours, well, right through until the evening and tomorrow, they will, of course, be debating and deliberating on how, as a party, they can actually seize those opportunities that they believe exist. So we've come to the end of the open session. For now, a little later on, we'll be called back to witness the nomination of the new leadership or the re-election of some. We will be bringing you that live. For now, though, we are going to go back to hand back to Johannesburg for the news to continue, and they will, of course, hand back to us as soon as that nomination process takes place. For now, it's back to Johannesburg.
The President will join the media outside for interviews. We move into a closed session of Congress. We request all those people who are not delegates to excuse us for a moment. Thank you very much. Secretary General, you will be presenting your report now. I want to thank you very much, honorable delegates, for the high esteem in which you presented yourselves during the presentation by the National President. There is nothing embarrassing more than hearing a pin fall when a person is trying from the podium to drive a point home. Ngoba makuwe sasipeliti lo muntu okhulumayo usabhizi ufuna lento ewileyo ngoba uphazanyiswa nguwe, but you behaved in a highly disciplined fashion. Asiziqhwabeleni maqabane. I now request you humbly to carry on in that fashion without withholding anything. If you want to say something, say it, but say it in a disciplined fashion. Say it loud and clear such that we can understand it from the chair. Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, please, can you ascend to the podium, please?